Hi guys, welcome to Snakes Nowadays. We're continuing our introducing series by today, covering the first of the amphibians that we are going to cover in time. This is a White's tree frog, or Litorea caerulea. It is probably one of the most widely kept tree frogs, and for good reason. They are singly probably the hardiest amphibian, maybe apart from horned frogs, that you can keep in captivity. They're certainly the hardiest of the tree frogs that we can commonly get hold of in the pet trade. They are laid back for a tree frog, given probably to their size. They're not the most energetic of chaps. Most other tree frogs at this point would have made a bid for freedom, having been sat on my hand for about 3 seconds and decided to just go boing, just bounce off. So what lends themselves? Where are they from? You know, why are they beginner species? Why do we think they're great? A number of reasons really. They're highly variable in colour. They can vary from a dull brown up to green. The captive bred animals can even be a blue in hue, like a cyan. There has now been selectively bred to produce white flecked variants, and they're called snowflake, which are quite attractive as well, but the normal form's just as cool. They're also known as dumpy tree frogs. As these animals get bigger, they develop huge fat rolls. You can see they're just beginning to appear here, but eventually they can end up with these big rolls of flab hung over them, which gives them the Dumpy name. They originate from Australia, Papua New Guinea and West Papua, formerly known as Irian Jaya. They occur in a variety of different areas, so that could be from dry forest to grasslands, streams and swamps, and even areas of human habitation, and they're commonly found in water butts at the sides of houses. Part of their adaptability as well is the ability to either take on or jettison water as needed, and they can reduce their body weight by 20-30% with no issue. If we consider some of the more frailly built amphibians, such as red-eyed tree frogs, or some of the dart frogs, or some of the Asian tree frog species, they don't have this body mass where they can take on the extra water and they can then jettison it. So in periods of drought, these animals can reduce their body mass significantly and survive. All this lends itself to being a hardy amphibian. An amphibian that can tolerate maybe us trying to get the humidity right, getting the tank right, and they're going to live through all of this, and that, you know, they'll tolerate it. This is kind of what one of the key things that makes a beginner species is hardiness, adaptability to us cocking things up and not quite getting it right straight away. Not all tree frogs are as forgiving as this. So, you know, this is what one of the White's tree frog's major strengths. They get to between 8 and 12 centimeters in length. They like a temperature of between 26 and 28 degrees at the warm side. Now what we would do is set up an arboreal tank, so either one of the Komodo or Exoterra, maybe a 12-12-18, which is the mini tall, for a single animal. If we were going to have multiple animals or a group, then we'd probably be looking at either the 18 by 18 by 24 tall, or the 24 long, 18 high, 18 deep. As far as humidity goes, they're incredibly variable again because of their natural origins, and they will tolerate humidity levels from 40 to 90% throughout the range of the vivarium. An area must always be kept moist. Frogs will desiccate, their skin breathes, so it's easy for them to dehydrate. It is probably better to have a heat pad rather than bulbs, simply because we're trying to warm the air through. So this could be one of the adhesive pads that sticks to the side of the tank, give them a warm area. We'd maybe cover that with a shaft of cork bark so they could go up inside, and they've got this heat island. You're going to jump on me now. And they're so cool, so funny, full of personality. Come on, you're not going that way. We're in the middle of a video, dude. So they'll hide behind the cork bark shaft. They can get the warmth, and then they'll migrate throughout the tank as necessary. You'd use coal and orchid bark and live sphagnum moss to help try and keep the humidity slightly higher, lower down in the tank. Don't worry if the humidity level drops, the animal will migrate through the tank to control its humidity as necessary. It's important that we don't allow the tank to become stagnant, so we don't want it absolutely soaking wet. If in doubt, we're going to err slightly to the drier side than having the tank soak through. This can lead to bacterial flourishes and problems, which could then affect the animal. Cleanliness is next to godliness with frogs. With their skin being absorbent the way it is, they will take toxins and bacterial loads on board, and we've just got to be careful of that. They'll take a varied diet: locust, crickets, waxworm, mealworm, roaches for bigger animals. These should always be supplemented with calcium and multivitamins. With regards to UV light, if you're going to keep this animal in a bioactive tank, some maybe 5% UV light, and then what we would also do is have some full spectrum lighting to be able to keep your plants alive. The theory of setting up a bioactive tank is a separate issue, but if you're going to do this in a bioactive tank, you must let the tank mature first. A lot of the logs or branches that you go through will go through a mould process, and we will get some fur, we might even get mushrooms, and this process must have been allowed to have happened before you put your amphibians in there. So the full spec, I mean, also as well as a side note, these are heavy built frogs who will pay absolutely zero respect to the amount of effort that you've put into your bioactive tank. So make sure that you have plants that are robust enough to be able to put up with these guys jumping and messing around. In the larger enclosures, it may well be worth buying something with big structural leaves, maybe such as Fatsia japonica, which has got some really big structural leaves that will tolerate the body weight of these frogs without falling apart. Things like bromeliads may well just get smashed to bits, and they look cool for 5 minutes. So yeah, these bigger, more structural plants may be less flashy, but they're going to put up with more of a battering, which these big heavy-bodied frogs will give them. So the females are larger than males generally. There has been some discussion about being able to sex them through the colour of their throats, where the males have got supposedly a slightly darker colour, but really the fail-safe way of sexing frogs is the male has what's called a nuptial pad. When they breed, the male frogs will clamp their hands, which sort of seal in place around the chest of the female as they're trying to mate her, and this gives them almost like a brown raised wart on the thumb pad. So an easy way, once your animal's probably 2.5–3 inches long, you can begin to sex them. Sexing them before that would be incredibly difficult. Also the males will call and vocalize, which is also your clue as to what the sex is. There is another species of Litorea that's commonly found in the trade. Slightly bigger actually as a species, that is Litorea infrafrenata, or the white-lipped tree frog, or giant tree frog. So they can maybe hit 15 centimetres rather than 12. They are a bit more specialised. They are definitively rainforest animals, so we need slightly higher humidity for them. They're no way as tolerant as white tree frogs, so don't group them together. They would definitely be a slightly higher step up in difficulty, just from checks and making sure that everything's right and making sure that everything's okay. The whites is far more tolerant. It's a huge family. Litorea's got 150 species, and there's new species being found all the time. But to be honest, in the trade, the only 2 species that you're going to come across are the white tree frog, Litorea caerulea, and the white-lipped, which is Litorea infrafrenata. Definitely worth researching, definitely worth looking at. White tree frogs are ace. They are long-lived. They'll live 15–20 years if looked after correctly. They are incredibly forgiving as amphibians go. Absolutely one of the hardiest species that you can keep. Do some research, have a read up on them. You can't go wrong. These guys are fabulous. Just look how chilled out he is. Any other frog at this point would have been long gone, and I'd have been running around the shop trying to chase them. These guys are just so laid back, and that's what lends themselves, along with their hardiness, for being a beginner species. Hope you're still enjoying the videos. We'll keep them coming. Visit the website, which is www.snakesandadders.co.uk, for more details. Cheers.